Hi there everyone and happy Thursday to you. I hope your day is getting off to a great start today. I have a really fun project to share with you using one of my favorite tools from our friends over at WOW, and this is the Embossing Ink Pad Refill Conditioner and Freestyle tool, or as I like to call it, the Rolly tool. And I call it the Rolly tool because it's got this great roller applicator. Now inside the bottle is embossing ink. So this is what you would use to refresh and condition your embossing ink pad. So that Rolly tool is really great for just getting on just enough of that ink, embossing ink refill, so that you're not flooding the ink pad, but you're getting on enough to lengthen the life of your ink pad and get the most out of your embossing ink pad. So it works just like any other ink refresher. But with that Rolly tool, I know a lot of you are probably already thinking there's a lot of other cool creative stuff that you can do with an applicator like this, like doing some simple drawing. And that's what I've done today that I want to share with you. So here's my card project. That simple heart shape that you see on here, when I tilt it, you can see that it has been embossed. And that's using the Lava Burst embossing powder, which is from the Bursting with Color trio, also from WOW. And it just makes for a really fun card focal. It's quite casual. It has a really fun sketchy effect. And if you're thinking, oh, I could do a shape like a heart, but I could also do, you could do lines, you could do loops, you could do waves, you could do polka dots, you could do just about anything that you can draw, you can do with the Freestyle tool. So I'm going to share that process with you. I'm going to stand up and tilt you down. And when I do that, I will apologize in advance for the mess that you will inevitably see behind me. I'm reorganizing my craft room, which sounded like a really fun and easy thing to do, and then quickly became much more complicated than I originally thought. So I have a bit of chaos going on back there. So please excuse that. Okay, so I'm going to show you the card project one more time. And just tilt this a little bit, you can see that really fun shine on there. Now the other thing you might notice is I've got a little bit of embossing here and then up around here. That is the Sunburst embossing powder. And I'm going to show you how to do that process as well. Okay, so let me bring in a piece of plain white cardstock and we can do the technique. A couple of other things I need to have on hand: my embossing powder. So here's the Bursting with Color trio. And I'm going to use the Lava Burst, which is the darker color. I have that on hand. I've got my Freestyle tool, and I have a piece of scrap paper on hand as well. So I'm ready to go. Now what I'm going to do, and I know it's a little tricky to see it because it's clear and it's on white, but once you see the embossing powder on here, you will also see where that is going. So I'm just going to do a heart shape. Just freehand that, and then put this inside my folded piece of paper, and then add my Lava Burst embossing powder on here. You can be quite generous when you do this because you know you're tapping off the excess, and then I can funnel this right back into the jar. So I've got my slightly imperfect heart. Most hearts are slightly imperfect, at least the human variety, but we love them anyway. So, okay, I'm gonna funnel this back into the jar, and then none of that will go to waste. So let me set that aside, put the lid back on the jar before I heat set it. So if you give me just a sec, I'm gonna heat set this quickly, and then we can move on to the next part. Okay, so my embossing powder has all melted, and I've got that really fun shine and dimension on there. Now this is a single heart. On my original card, you'll see that I've got a double heart going on. What I would suggest you do is, if you want the double heart, go ahead and do one, and then come back and do a second one after you've heat set this. If you get the Rolly tool into that unheat set embossing powder, then it can end up clogging your Rolly tool. So do it once, heat set it, and then go back and do another go if that's what you want. Or you can just leave it with one. I think that looks fun as well. So I wanted to show you also how to get that powdery effect going across the background. Now I've got some blue spatters on here, and that is dye-based ink that I've spattered on, but I wanted to share with you this kind of, you can see the orange bit on here and then over here. This is also embossing powder, and this is the Sunburst, so also from the Bursting with Color collection. And this is a technique that I learned from Marian Emberson at WOW. And she said, oh, you know, everybody knows this technique. And I thought, I didn't know this technique, so I want to share it with you. And basically what you're going to do is add some embossing powder onto your piece, but you're not going to use ink to set it in place because you want it to have that completely random kind of sprinkled effect. But what you want to do is use something metal rather than like a plastic spoon. Sometimes you'll see people using plastic spoons to sprinkle things on. Avoid using plastic with your embossing powder because it can introduce static into your embossing powder. And the embossing powder from WOW, their jars, have been specially treated to be anti-static. And static is the thing that can end up giving you random blotches and spots on your embossing powder. So it's either static or it's also the oil from your hands. So always use something metal. I've got this old metal spoon that I'm using, the handle of it, just to dip in there. Anything metal will do the trick. So I've got my embossing powder on there. I think you can kind of see it. Then what I'm going to do is heat set from underneath. So this might be at a bit of an awkward angle, but I'll share it with you anyway. So hang in there with me. Okay, so I think you could see there, I finished off by coming straight from the front, but most of the heating needs to be done from the back of that cardstock. But that's going to give you a really pretty, delicate sort of addition to your card. So thank you, Marian, for teaching me that. And apologies if you guys already knew all of that. I had not heard of it until she mentioned it. So that's how you can use your Rolly tool to create some freestyle hearts or lots of other patterns if you want to. Let me share with you again the original card so you can see I've also got some blue spatters, and then I've also got the stamped sentiment. This is from Paper Artsy. This is the ESN 24 stamp set, and it's this little hashtag love you stamp up here at the top, simply stamped with black ink, and then a couple of sequins and a bow on there. And I wanted it to be quite a clean and simple design, but I also wanted it to have some color and dimension on there too. Now, if you're thinking, oh, well, what else could I do with this if I'm not drawing hearts? You can also do, of course, lines. You could do zigzags, swirls, all kinds of things. Yesterday, I posted this card project onto my YouTube channel, and this is using the Freestyle tool to add some really scuffy lines in between my stripes of ombre ink. So this is a really fun way to create some definition and separate out some colors too. So you can use it in combination with some other supplies as well. So 2 fun project ideas. I hope you get a chance to check out this one here. This is on my YouTube channel at Studio SN. And this one will be posted up later on my blog as well, so you can get links to all of the product that I have been using today. So I hope you enjoyed today's segment, and thanks so much for joining me. I will catch up with you again next Thursday, and hopefully the studio will be in a slightly tidier state by then. Okay, take care, you guys. Have a great week and great weekend. See you later.